This Tommy, good morning to you. Unmute yourself there, good man.
Good morning. Yeah, I muted myself just in case I reacted to the lads' list there, but we won't get into that.
No, very quickly.
You can't have Paul Scholes over Roy Keane.
I know, Tommy. I thought you'd be a Scholes.
This is an excellent start to this week's episode of the Power Rankings. Well done.
There we go. And you can't have a list of Manchester United's greatest ever players without having George Best, Bobby Charlton,
stop it.
and
Exactly.
Dennis Law. There's the cop out. I wouldn't go near that Premier League era stuff.
It's a very modern thing to suggest that history doesn't exist because we didn't see it with our own eyes, and it is leading to all sorts of problems around the world.
Where's Duncan Edwards going? What's your footballing?
Do a bit of research. I don't know where he's going.
But research what? Just watch a couple of old grainy videos.
Read
of Duncan
books.
Edwards.
Read books. Oh my God.
I do read books, but that doesn't teach me how good Duncan Edwards was in comparison to feckin' Paul Scholes.
Absolutely does. Yeah, you kind of. What could he do? Where did he go? Where could he play in the pitch? What was the field of influence? What did the manager at the time say about him? How did they compare him with the previous greats? And what was his...
But they can't compare him to Scholes.
What were his achievements?
We don't know.
Yeah, without trying to undermine my power rankings here, watching I Believe in Miracles made John Robertson one of my favourite footballers of all time. So that's what can happen, Shane, when you watch a bit of old footage.
Jesus, there
you go.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. Okay.
Now, it is time for our GAA Power Rankings.
Yeah.
Some of these critics, these pundits,
I absolutely adore them lads. I have unbelievable time for them, but they're a great bunch, but it's not acceptable.
They like to play the hard man when they're on it. It's not very pleasant when you're trying to manage a team. All you're looking for is a bit of civility and a bit of decency, but they just miss you like you have nothing to do with the bloody occasion.
We're going to have a news thing next week where we talk about mushrooms, but we might leave that until we actually got it done. Are you on the mushies this week, Tommy?
I absolutely am not, and I've never been accused of that before. But that's what happens when the power rankings are put into your hands. It's been a busy few weeks, Ger, without you. I was surprised you weren't there the first day around to give me a bit of grief, but my God, I have taken it since.
How prepared or otherwise were you for the onslaught in your DMs and publicly?
I was prepared. I did the work. I didn't take any decision lightly. I think I've been proven right in a lot of regards so far with a lot of my early calls. And I vociferously defended myself on every single social media platform that I possibly could over the last couple of weeks.
Well,
so I turned off my phone for a week there. So yeah, that's where we are.
Tell me, I obviously missed last week, or the first time that you did this. Have you adapted, changed and evolved the criteria from Owen Sheehan, where it was just like his internal computer that was deciding what the order was?
A little bit. There's still an element to that, which I think some people find it very difficult to get their heads around. There's a couple of new websites at the minute that are doing their own power rankings. I think Stats and Sports is a GA site that I had a look at. We have vastly different criteria, I'll put it that way. There is, obviously a bit of science, a bit of statistics, but who was it that said statistics can't judge character? So character comes into this too. So the character of the team obviously plays a factor. Owen never really let us see how the Fig was put into the Fig role, and I don't think I'll be doing the same either, but I will be defending all of my choices.
All right. Let's get
I ran
going.
out of time the last day, so will I just go
Yeah, let's
quickly
get
through?
going. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll talk through the movers, and you can give out if there's no one that isn't moving that you're giving out about. Movers from 32 to 25. Longford have slipped down again. 0 from 2, bottom of Division 3, hammered by the neighbours Westmeath in the Midlands El Clasico at the weekend. They have the worst score difference in the 4 divisions. I do think Paddy Christie will eventually get a kick out of them. Not at the minute. So they're down to 27th. Laois have jumped up on them. 2 from 2. Finally a bit of momentum for Laois. Low enough at the moment in the rankings to begin with, but that's because at the weekend they had their first win since February 2020. So it's been a very long slide. The first win at home since February 2020. Been a very long slide, but they're on the right road at the minute. And then on to the next round of rankings. For anyone listening, should I give a recap where we're at?
Yeah, so
Wicklow,
32
Wexford.
Waterford, 31 Wicklow, 30 Wexford, 29 Carlow, 28 London, 27 Longford, down 1, 26 Laois, up 1. Leitrim unchanged at 25. Were you tempted to... They're doing well?
They're doing well. They're the top scorers in the division. I got accused of football pod bias for having Andy Moore inside there, but I gave my reasons last week for having them so high. There was a real bounce in Leitrim football last year, and Sligo are just ahead of them in 24th. So moving on to the next tier, Sligo 24th, Antrim 23rd, Fermanagh 22nd. Big movers here. Tipperary have slid down 2 places, 0 from 2, joint bottom of Division 3. They already lost Colin O'Riordan, who trained early in the year but didn't commit. Michael Quinlivan isn't around, and now they've lost their talisman, Conor Sweeney, to the dreaded cruciate injury. I fear they're about to make a swift return to Division 4.
It's the last season.
They're in a bit of bother.
Yeah, it has all the hallmarks of a last season for them, unfortunately. Go on.
Yeah, 20th, Offaly. I doubted Liam Kearns. I said not every team can get a manager bounce. Well, Liam Kearns certainly has. They are 2 from 2. I didn't think they pushed on this year, but they're in a great position. The weekend, it was 1-1 apiece with Fermanagh at half time, but it got a bit better in the second half, and Offaly edged that one 1-9 to 1-8.
Yeah, Fermanagh and Antrim have had tricky starts. So we're going to talk about Down now, right?
Yeah.
Antrim nearly beat Down, but then didn't.
For sure. Yeah, and
so it's hard to tell. That could be great for Antrim because Down could be getting a bounce, and they just need to see it through in week 3 and make sure they get a win.
Yeah, 100%.
They're on the precipice of they're in a bit of flux at the moment. With Down, they're only going up 1, even though they won two games.
Yeah, and I found it difficult, and we'll come to it in a minute. I found it difficult to move counties up 2, but in some places you just had to. Like, you couldn't slip Tip beneath Offaly after losing 2 games and Offaly winning 1. So Tip had to jump down 2. Down, while I feel they're starting from a very, very low base, the mood music is good. You know, Laverty knows what he's doing. It might be early, but he knows what he's doing, and he will do really well as an inter-county manager. Oran Murdoch was picked out in the GAA Team of the Week this week. He's getting rave reviews. Keep an eye out for him, a young midfielder rocking it at the moment in Down. Pat Havern is flying up front with Barry O'Hagan. So they've won 2 different ways. They had a good win out the first day, and they mixed it up the other night. They were blessed, really, by all accounts, against Antrim. So you can't complain when that's happening early on in the season. Like, so they're getting wins. Down can't complain. They're going to be happy with where they are. Louder 18th. I did feel like putting them over Limerick, but we're going to leave a couple of weeks to see how that gets on. Limerick are 17th. A couple of Limerick people aren't happy, but despite their run to the Munster final, I do think that they're going to be relegated back to Division 3.
Right. Here's where it starts to get interesting.
Yeah. Okay. 16th position, Cavan. Cavan people will complain, but they always do.
Two wins, for the moment. Yeah.
For sure, Shane, but there's a fine line between moving up the rankings when you're switching between divisions and stuff like that. League football can have a bearing, but you know, it can be difficult to move ahead of a Division 2 side. Kildare 15th. I really thought long and hard about this, Ger. I actually thought I had them low enough in 13th, to be honest, and I thought that was going to cause a bit of consternation when we had the rankings originally.
Well, this is where you got accused of being on mushrooms for putting Kildare in 13th.
Yeah,
what's it going to be on? Put them 15th.
Kildare, yeah, Kildare GAA podcast. But I just look at the defeat against Dublin. Grand. It's in Croke Park. Nice, couple of nice showings. Kevin Feely came back onto the pitch after his recovery from injury. Daniel Flynn, nowhere to be seen, had a bit of a knock. He was back last week off the bench. But they went 27 minutes at home without scoring against Cork.
Not great.
That is just like, I was in Newbridge last year to watch them beat Dublin. And this is my problem with Kildare. They have it in them. They have the ability. They have the footballers. But there's something missing on a fundamental level. And I don't know what it is. The other thing I'm surprised about was the mood music. And I know you can see this in most counties. If a defeat goes against them, they're complaining. There's arguments on social media. But there was a grave response from Kildare channels at the weekend in terms of how bad that first half really was. Second half didn't get much better. Cork are good. Like I'm not saying Meath were lucky to beat them, but that game hinged on a couple of moments around the 50th minute. Cork easily could have won that game. But Cork are not the finished article. Most of the teams in Division 2 have weaknesses to go with their strengths. Kildare seems to be a fatal one, and it seems to just be an element of flakiness that they just can't shake over the last couple of years. Grand, they've got the Leinster finals, but they never really put a paw on Dublin. It's a sad state of affairs. I do hope that they get higher than they are, because they're far better than they're showing. But what is going on?
I don't know. I think that last year's Leinster final defeat has had more of an impact than the quality of the good performance they put in against Mayo. Like, if they'd got over Mayo that day, I think it would have been a transformative moment for the team, a real recovery from what happened, and for them to have lost in the manner that they did, there seems to be some kind of hangover from that. Now, I know they're working on that. So, and again, it is only the early stages of the league. However, Division 2 of the league is vitally important. So
it's a bear pit.
It's on a bit of a knife edge at the moment. I do think though that there's just a problem here with the position of Westmeath. Like,
okay, well, you know, you can say that.
You're putting them in the top 12 because they're guaranteed to be in the Tailteann Cup, or not to be in the Sam Maguire. Is that it?
There isn't one full reason why I've put Westmeath in 12th position, and they may not stay in 12th position. I truly believe the manner in which they took the Tailteann Cup so seriously, the benefits they got from it, the team holiday they got, they were all in Cancun together in November. They have a new manager bounced that into that with Desi Dolan and Jason Sherlock.
How'd that work out their first day?
Sure. Okay, and this is the league, and it's early, and it's January, right?
But
look at the response they put in.
They weren't particularly bouncy.
I think they're the second highest goal scorers in the league now. See the response they put in against Longford, and Longford won the O'Byrne Cup. Don't forget that. Longford had an okay start of the year. They were in good shape. They were moving well.
So Cork and Meath need to be above Westmeath, Tommy.
Look at Shane. It's a long year. It's a sprint this year, not a marathon. So there'll be a lot of changes to the power rankings.
You're being cute here as a Meath man. You're being cute here, putting Westmeath above Meath. Like there's something going on here.
Meath have had the largest move this week of any county. Meath are up 2 places.
I wouldn't have taken it off you if you put them up 3 though and dumped them ahead of Westmeath.
But if you're watching the Meath games closely, you'll see that there are very obvious weaknesses, and it's great. The mood music's really good. The chest is out. They're the highest goal scorers in the division, but Meath are not the finished article. They're missing a couple players from injury now. A couple of Sigerson issues, as you've seen. Conor O'Rourke finding it difficult to get the balance between starting players who are captaining their sides in Sigerson and Meath have players that are actually captaining teams at that level. They are key players for him, but he's lost a couple of players now. They're playing a new style. He can't ask for much more as a Meath fan, but they are not the finished article yet.
Okay, I do think that the Westmeath positioning is like a fundamental error here.
You don't think that the Tailteann Cup deserves bonus points?
But that's last year, they
won a trophy, championship. They won a league title the year before that.
Yeah,
they have trophies in this dressing room.
They have
winners in this dressing room. I think they are arguably the second best team in Leinster.
Well, I'd love to have seen them win their first league game and their second game, and it be like, okay, so we beat Longford, but as you said, you expect Longford to get relegated. So beating the relegation fodder is not actually an indicator of good quality form. At the moment, Cavan, Offaly and Down are 2 from 2, and Westmeath are 1 from 2, having played, as we said, Longford in Division 3. And there are Division 2 teams behind them who we think are going to end up topping Division 2. What's your prediction for who's going to top Division 2? I think privately you think Meath are going to do it. I'm breaching confidence here. But
Division 2.
Yeah.
I asked Division 3 for a second. Who do I think is top in Division 2? Dublin. Dublin are walking away with Division 2, and Kerry are getting promoted. Yeah. That's what's happening in Division 2 this year.
Meath aren't getting promoted?
Meath aren't ready to be Division 1 side yet. The hope is that they back up what they've shown this year. They put in good performances in every game. They may not win every game, but good, solid performances in every game. They continue to show this flair up front because they're starting 6 forwards, which I absolutely love. But I don't think they're going to get promoted. I haven't seen enough yet to say that they will. I haven't seen enough yet to say that they are a solid Division 1 team. What you want to happen with Meath is that they're good enough to go up and they're good enough to stay there, which Roscommon looked like they may get away with this year.
Yeah, which obviously has been a real problem for teams getting promoted. Promoted a season too early. And the relegation from Division 1 seems to be psychological disaster. It's we're seeing
Westmeath had it a couple of years ago. They were soundly beaten in every game, 8 games. Meath had it 2 years ago. They were beaten, but I thought they were very competitive, which I thought helped them. But they didn't get the bounce the next year. Kildare bet them in that playoff, so it just shows you you just need to put in the foundations to get there.
Yeah, and it's the same even with Kildare, who were chronically unlucky last year in Division 1, but are not seeing the benefit of having played at that higher level just at the moment. Now,
exactly.
This can turn around really quickly. There's a down week this week. This is the week where you get everybody together and you say, what the hell? What do we stand for? What are our values? Let's go. And sometimes that'll work and sometimes it won't. So a lot of these teams in between 16 and 9. So there's
a lot of movement.
Yeah, so you've Westmeath at 12, Clare at 11. I think maybe
Clare 11. The Clare are perennial All-Ireland quarter-finalists here. They're in Division 2 constantly over the last couple of years. A lot of people complained about this, but there's a lot to be said for that.
I think there's
and they're staying there again this year.
One of my favourite lines from Die Hard is where they're talking about the Helsinki syndrome, as in Helsinki, Sweden. I just for whatever reason I found it like, if I could get an NFT of that, I would be like, that's the one piece that I would ever pay for. You definitely have Stockholm syndrome, or more accurately, Burren syndrome, or something. You've gone native. The air down there is poisoning your brain to the point where they're the 11th best team in the country.
Jeff, I had a piece in the programme in Navan at the weekend. I was asked to write a piece about the rivalry between Clare and Meath, and I happened to not sit in defence. I called a Meath win. I did say that I thought it'd be very close, and that the noise in Meath and the noise in Navan would get them over the line.
I believe they call that riding with the hare and hunting with the hound.
Yeah.
Running with the hare and hunting with the hound.
So look at
what a butcher.
They are punching above their weight, but it is a very good Clare team. I've watched them closely over the last couple of years, and they have some.
He's not going to pick you, Tommy. He's not going to pick you. It's too late.
Give up.
Look at. I'm long beyond that, Ger. I've long given up on that dream. So if only Conor O'Rourke could come in a bit earlier in Meath, but that's another story for another day. The next two games in Division 2 are going to tell tale. I presume there's producers in your ear screaming to hurry up, but Kildare are in Ennis to play Clare. If Kildare is 0 from 3, it's Tailteann Cup for Glen Ryan this year. Meath are in Owen Beg against Derry, and if Meath don't put in a good performance, we could be questioning everything we've seen in the first 2 weeks.
Okay, so we'll
Donegal are 9th. Monaghan, we're going to leave them in 10th. I feel like they're going to stay there for the year. I hope that they can move on from this. I do think there's a slide in Monaghan, but they're going to have to find some talent. Not find some talent, because there is good younger players there like Sean Jones and some of the younger defenders breaking through, but they're going to need to solidify themselves as Division 1 footballers very quickly, because they're sliding down to Division 2, and they're going to hopefully not stay there, but Monaghan are there at the moment. They're 10th. I don't think they're moving. Donegal has slipped back to 9th. Yes, they've beaten the All-Ireland champions Kerry at home in the rain when Kerry had a shadow team out. Just about got over the line, but I think we got a better idea of what Donegal are about against Tyrone. It was a fairly
that was a freak. I honestly think that Donegal win over Kerry in the first game was a freak. Like, I actually agree with you, Tommy. I think Donegal and Monaghan will probably get relegated from Division 1.
You'd be worried, alright, if you're a Donegal supporter, just that there was an immediate kick, but that might be unsustainable, particularly when there's so many young players who are now understanding exactly what Division 1 football is about.
Yeah. And like Paddy Carr has a reputation for bringing young players along and getting them into the right zone, so he will do good work there. And Donegal on paper are, as we always say, Donegal on paper are an exceptional side. They have so many good footballers across the board, but there has just been something wrong in that side over the last couple of years, the way they've fallen short time and time again. So they're in 9th, and I don't see them breaking back into the top 8 again this year.
The big difference there for me, Donegal and Monaghan and Roscommon actually have new managers, but Roscommon have held on to some of that core group of experienced players, whereas Monaghan, they've lost Drew Wiley and Colin Walsh to retirement. McManus and the two Hugheses haven't been playing yet in the league. They're going to come back in soon. Jack McCarn's been injured. Davy Garland's playing Sigerson with TCU and banging in goals, so they're missing a few players. And similarly for Donegal, if you lose Michael Murphy, that's tough. But Roscommon have gone the other way with the new manager. They've kept on some of those experienced players, so I think Roscommon are heading the other direction.
Yeah. That's probably a very fair point, Shane. And for most of those teams between 16 and 9, if they lose players to Sigerson, to injuries, to retirement, you're snookered, because the player pick, the depth, it just isn't there at the moment.
Okay.
We'll move on to top 8.
Top 8, Roscommon. Okay. Cracking the top 8 this week. Number 8.
The Rossies, top of the league. Are they finally about to end their yo-yo hoodoo? Jeez, I couldn't say it there. The baggies of the last couple of years, the West Brom of the last couple of years, as Paddy Andrews christened them too much. Arguments from Roscommon people, but the manner of the victories have been impressive in the fact that they've been very similar. I don't know whether it's the hallmarks of that the change might be coming, the fact that they're falling behind and their bench is coming on and making the difference, but they had a really resounding win against Tyrone in the last 15 minutes, coming back from a couple of points down, and against Galway, All-Ireland runners up, the team that I have in 3rd place, they bet them 9-8 the weekend with a cracking winner from Richard Hughes, breaking up the field in the last minute when Galway were on the attack. Plenty to work on in the county. There is a new generation, I think, on the way through in Roscommon. You're seeing it in their midfield and in some of their attackers. They got great value out of the players over the last decade, but some of them need to break through and probably force some of them onto the bench. So they could have a strong bench this year, Roscommon, with a new wave of players breaking through.
We have Conor McKenna on the show a little bit later on. You've got Tyrone at 7. If McKenna was still at Tyrone, you might have them a little bit higher. But I do think that traditionally Tyrone have fallen flat the year after they've won All Irelands. I mean, it's a fluke, right? But I very gratified as someone who thought that there was more in that Tyrone team than a fluky All Ireland win. Definitely felt like there's a squad there and depth there that many other counties don't have. There's also a very clear identity and everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Something weird happened last year with all the retirements that completely stripped the depth, but then they have that replenished this year with one of the best under-20s teams that we've seen in a long time. Probably too early for a lot of them, but not too early for some of them. And maybe
I hope it's not too early for Rory Canavan. We're getting really close to seeing a really vibrant Tyrone attack with the two Canavans in there. Like, that is going to be a sight worth paying in to watch, and I can't wait to see that. I think you're right. I think Tyrone, I'm being harsh on Tyrone. I love Tyrone football. They were my favourite team of the 2000s. They're phenomenal with a chip on the shoulder, so maybe I've given them that chip on the shoulder. Oh, no, I'm only joking. It's not going to be on their dressing room wall this year. But James O'Donoghue called them to be relegated. Well, he said that they were in danger of relegation early last year. That didn't happen, but the problems they had, you know, it permeated, and that hangover, I think, is still there a little bit. You saw the way they lost to Roscommon. Good win at the weekend. I think Tyrone will push on this year. Once again, I actually think every team from 7-1 are contenders this year. I think this is an open All-Ireland. I thought last year was too. Kerry, I'm going to say it, we're lucky to get over the line. Dublin could have easily won that All-Ireland again last year. But equally, if Armagh had gotten to the All-Ireland final, if Derry had gotten to the All-Ireland, I don't think Derry had enough really, but, you know, it could have been anyone's in that All-Ireland final. Galway pushed Kerry all the way. So I think anyone from 7-1 can win the All-Ireland. I'm putting that in the record.
Derry in Division 2 this year are having the opportunity to play teams that they're superior to and getting a bit of confidence going and trying to find a bit of attacking flair. That's the one thing that gives me some hope that we're going to see a development from last year. But there's also the possibility that last year was the best that we're ever going to get from Derry, that they are All-Ireland semi-finalists, but that they don't quite have the forward firepower to see them through in big games like that. Now, perhaps that's wrong. The textbook Rory and Jim McGuinness in Donegal was reach a semi-final, show everybody what the heady heights are like, and then the next year come and piratically take over, be the Pirates.
Yeah, Jim and Rory had McFadden, Murphy, McBurty though, and I'm not saying McGuigan, Toner and Heron can't live up to a really high level, but I think Shane McGuigan's their marquee forward. They need Lachlan Murray to really break through this year and show how good he can be. You know, he had a couple of moments in the McKenna Cup. He's very highly rated in Derry. They need a couple of more of the Glen players probably to bring their flair. But Glen didn't really have shooters across the board. They had goal scorers. They had lads with an eye for goals. So Derry definitely needs something else. We need to see an evolution, Jared. I totally agree with you. I'm not convinced that they have it in them what Donegal had from 11 to 12, but maybe they don't need that. Maybe they have something else.
I'm not sure, but I'd have them behind Tyrone now, and I'd have Tyrone ahead of Armagh now as well.
I think Derry are going to.
Would you have Tyrone ahead of Armagh?
Yeah, I just.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, Tyrone won All Ireland.
Oh,
Armagh were quite impressive.
Last year was so bad. Armagh are going to push the league all the way this year. Like, what if Armagh win Division 1 of the league this year?
Well, then you're okay. Fair enough. Then I'd have them third.
It's going to be.
They have to do that. Let's wait and see.
It's set up for a Derry Armagh Ulster final this year because you've got Fermanagh against Derry in the quarterfinal. The winner will play the winner of Tyrone Monaghan, and I think Derry will beat probably Tyrone. I'm going with Tyrone in that one.
That's a good call, Shane. Early
with Derry.
Well, I think Derry will beat Tyrone in an Ulster semi-final, and I think it'll be Donegal or Down against Cavan, Armagh or Antrim. So it's going to be probably a Donegal Armagh semi-final on the other side. No disrespect.
I've already called.
So I think it could well be a Derry Armagh Ulster final this year. The Ulster's hard to defend, but if any team can do it, I think Derry can do it.
It's an Armagh Tyrone final. Back to the future.
Well, it could be, but
I think there's a good chance of that, Shane. Yeah, and
they move it to Croker.
Defended, yeah, that'd be some turn up.
Oh lads, no, Derry are there on merit. Like they beat Tyrone by 12 points in the McKenna Cup final not too long ago, and it wasn't shadowboxing.
Doesn't matter. McKenna Cup.
They were strong teams.
The weather's shite.
Yeah, but different sport. They had no Glen players either. I mean,
pre-season's not getting the thumbs up from me. Yeah, look I think Armagh Fort is obviously contentious, but I do think that they were the fourth best team in the country last year. Despite only getting to the All-Ireland quarter-final, I thought they were the fourth best team in the country, and that's why they're fourth.
Ahead of Galway, ahead of Derry.
No, Galway ahead of Derry. Okay, because I don't think Derry laid enough of a glove on Galway.
Mayo with I know the lads on the football pod this week are like, it's a lease of life for Aidan O'Shea, and that's not a bad full forward line that they have if they have O'Shea and Killian and whoever it is, Ryan O'Donoghue or whoever. They can actually move players around.
Ryan could be 11 this year. You could kind of see that happen, and maybe even Ryan O'D coming out the top of the D. But I really been heartened by Kieran O'Connor's comeback, lads, because coming back from injury, the injuries that he's had at the age that he is, and the amount of miles on the clock, he looks fresh as a daisy. And he's been used well, and he's coming back. I think there's good signs for Mayo, and I actually think the manner in which they drew the first game against Galway and the manner in which they drew the second game against Armagh, they're great conversations for Kevin McStay and his management team to be having early in the year.
He's so enthusiastic post-match about everything as well that it's actually it has to be rubbing off. And then the last one I just want to talk to you about is Donald Down O'Sullivan wasn't getting quite the thumbs up from Moylesy on the show yesterday.
I heard that.
But the level of excitement in Kerry is real.
Yeah, they legit believe it. We're in a WhatsApp group with a Kerry man who must not be named. He's excited. You know, James O'Donoghu's played alongside Donald O'Sullivan, and he kind of gave us the insider view on him and what they're feeling about him on the football pod this week. But like, he has, as I said on the pod this week, he's the cut of a county footballer. He actually looks like he's ready to play county football, and that's a very difficult thing to do given the level of conditioning that's in the game at the minute. He looks like he's ready to go, ready to rock, and I actually really believe Jack O'Connor needs to innovate as much as Derry need to evolve. Kerry need to evolve this year because they were lucky to get over the line last year.
But they get the bounce of being All-Ireland champions and the nous of knowing how to manage games. It's like the Dubs were pretty lucky a couple of times to get over Mayo, but then once they get into that habit, as the progression happened, they became much better at it. And that's why I have Kerry miles ahead of everybody. I don't think it's that open. I think it's Kerry's to lose.
Okay.
And I think the discovery of 2 inside forwards, you're like, oh my God.
I know.
And the production line of those under-20s, like, that is starting to roll through. So
yeah, everywhere. But they need a couple of positions. They need a midfielder, and I think they need another half-back maybe. But yeah, there we go.
All right.
I look forward to arguing again in a couple of weeks and maybe having a bit more of data to work with, a couple of more games, a couple of bit more evidence.
You're doing well, Tommy.
Not bad.
Thanks, lads.
Thank you very much.
Now, talk soon. Bye-bye.
That's this week's Power Rankings with Tommy Rooney.
I absolutely adore them lads. I have unbelievable time for them, but they're a great bunch, but it's not acceptable.